Hi folks, this is our first experiment in going live, the SearchPilot live stream. I am going to just try and make sure that the technology is working, and with a bit of luck, this is going to be going out on LinkedIn and YouTube in real time. So let's see how we go with that. Okay, and this is a thing that I'm hoping to do as a frequent, regular event. But let's say this is the first one. So this is an experiment in different content types. If it's gone well from a technical perspective, it's currently live on YouTube and LinkedIn. Future might be on Twitter as well. Might show up on the podcast feed with a lag. We'll see how it all goes. But if you want to stay up to date on the experiments that we're running, different places that you can catch up with me and with the team, you can follow me at Will Critchlow on Twitter and LinkedIn, or at SearchPilot, or head to searchpilot.com to get on our email list. Since this is an experiment, I also want to hear your feedback. What do you like, not like? I plan to do some of these in different formats. Just me today, but sometimes there'll be a guest, sometimes I'll go solo, sometimes it might even be a different presenter entirely, and we might have some of the team on here as well. But for the first one of these, I thought it might be fun to cover something entirely consensus driven, not at all controversial, which is usage data as a ranking factor. I was at Brighton SEO in San Diego last month, and it was a ton of fun. Great job, Kelvin and Lindsay and the team over there. And I was lucky enough to be able to ask Danny Sullivan, the search liaison at Google these days, and historically renowned journalist covering the search industry. I got to ask Danny Sullivan a question, and I tried to phrase it as delicately as I could. I asked, what can you say about the ways you use direct measurement of user behavior to influence rankings? I thought that was fairly diplomatically phrased. That leaves open the possibility of the answer, nothing, Will. I can't tell you anything about the ways we use direct measurement of user behavior to influence rankings. But that wasn't exactly the avenue that Danny took, and I wanted to kind of dive into some of the things that I've been thinking about since he answered this stuff. Now, obviously, it wasn't a coincidence that I asked this. There have been some revelations coming out of the US Department of Justice's antitrust trial of Google that have, some new stuff. We've learned some new things, and I'll get onto those in a minute. But what Danny said in answer to my question, massively paraphrasing, was we've always been totally clear about our use of user data, and pointed to some references in the docs about use of user data. I thought it might be worth today summarizing what I think we've known at different points along the way and what I think we know or suspect at this point. I'm just going to see if I can share my screen because it's going to be helpful to dive into some of these details. So, a bit of luck, my screen has shown up in the live feed, and let's see what we can do. So first of all, let's go back here to, this is 2019. So this is not that long ago. This is 4 years ago, 4 and a bit years ago, 4.5 years ago at this point. And this is an interesting moment in time because it refers to this Reddit AMA with Gary. And I think, let's just make this a bit bigger. So the thing that I've talked about in presentations and has stuck in my mind, and that I could quote back at you, was this generally made up crap line about a question around Google using user experience or behavioral signals. And we could dive deeper into it, but the full quote was, dwell time, quick click-through rate, whatever Fishkin's new theory is, those are generally made up crap. Now, I'm on the record giving public presentations talking about how I don't think this is the most helpful, language, apart from anything else, but comment in particular, and I think trying to dissuade folks in the SEO industry from figuring things out is a bad idea, and kind of gatekeeping it. Rand can look after himself, but I think folks who are newer to the industry, if they were to have done some of this same research and put out some of these same concepts and articles and theories and had it shot down by Google in this way, I think that's damaging, and I don't like it. So I've been on the record about that. But point being, on the substance, this is basically saying not only about these specifics, but whatever Fishkin's new theory is. Made up crap. So I think it's no wonder that we think that Google's official line is that this is not one of the ways that they use user data in the ranking as a ranking signal. And in fact, I'm quite a fan of this article. So this is a very long article written by Chris Smith in September 22. So we're getting more recent now. And so this is before the latest DOJ leaks, not leaks, information, and is a really long read. Like, look at the size of this the scroll bar here. So there's tons of it, loads of it, and I'm not going to go deep into all of it just now, but it talks about all the evidence, all the things Google said on the record, all the things we know from experiments and official lines, and I think it's fair to say the punchline of this is the mystery remains. You skip all the way to the end, and well, it says there really is no mystery, but actually I think there is, because I think that the conclusion of this article, written before the DOJ stuff, seems to be at odds with what we now know is in fact true coming out of that some of that testimony. And so what I think we knew or thought we knew at this point in time, so a little over a year ago, was that there are various ways that click data, user data, was used. Before I get onto these, I think we knew from public statements, we knew that it was used in things like training machine learning algorithms. I think that was fairly uncontroversial. Also used in evaluating the performance of regular ranking algorithms. So, Google might make a tweak to a weight or a way that the algorithm works, and then they would look at user data to see if that, when they rolled out that algorithm update to some percentage of searches, it performed better. So as a kind of feedback loop, so feedback loop into machine learning, feedback loop into algorithm updates directly, but neither of those affects the rankings in real time. So in other words, if you got better clicks on your ranking, it wouldn't move up as a result of those things directly. It was kind of a measurement, not a target, I suppose. And then there were these other places where it certainly was used. So personalized search is an interesting one, and I suspect this is, or at the time we suspected this was what explained some of the experimental results that we'd seen. So that included things like, this is the reason Gary called it Fishkin's made up crap, is experiments like getting a room full of people at a conference center to do a search and click on something that wasn't ranking highly on the page and seeing it move up. And I think in a broad definition of personalization, that was quite like, that fit within the remit of that potentially. So you can imagine that you personalize for an individual, or you personalize for a group or a cohort, or even an IP address, a location, a geography. You can consider some of those things personalization, even if they're not personal to a single individual. And then there were some other areas that we're not going to touch on too much today. Local search, maps, trending topics. Okay, fine. But this was kind of the state of what we thought we knew. And, a lot of the confusion was assigned to the inconsistency in terminology. And the view at the time of this article being written was that Gary's line was kind of coming from this narrow interpretation of is specifically click-through rate. So not any other kind of user data, not long clicks, not bounce rates, back to the search results, not pogo sticking, any of those kind of things, but specifically click-through rate. So, okay, we can kind of potentially accept that at that point. Until along comes this DOJ trial, and there have been various documents that we've found as a result, and one of the best sources of information has been a combination of Cyrus and Mike, who've been doing great work pulling out interesting tidbits from this. In this thread, Cyrus talks about seeing user interaction as a particular feature here. So this is talking about clicks as a user interaction, and various other forms of attention, different kinds of measurement of this, and the feedback loop that went into into this. And he, in fact, calls out Mike's information, which I'm going to dive over to. So Mike had pulled out this particular slide, which comes from an exhibit in the trial, and this is kind of really fascinating. This claim that from official internal Google training material, that the author of this doesn't actually feel that they are able to understand documents directly, and instead are very heavily reliant on user signals. So this is kind of fascinating, and I think as we've dug more deeply into this, I mean, talks here about this being the source of Google's magic, and there's a reason that the government's interested in this in the US, because to the extent that it is true that there's this self-reinforcing loop where user data makes search better, and then that means that more users use that particular search engine, and that user data makes search better. That is very relevant if what you're trying to do is explore antitrust and monopoly type questions. And I'm not an antitrust lawyer. I'm not going to get sucked into any speculation around that, but you can see what's interesting to those folks. And so this is kind of the state of play of what we know right now. I certainly think some of this is new, and it kind of is in addition to the things that we knew back in even just over a year ago. This was written in 22, and I think there's probably more to come, and it's going to be very interesting to follow along to that. So I think all of this kind of goes together to say it seems like there are various ways that Google does and might use user data as a direct ranking factor. So not just the ways that I talked about earlier in terms of evaluating algorithm updates or training machine learning models, but actually literally, something starts getting better clicks, shows that users prefer it more, and it can literally rank better as a result. And back to search engine land, there's the most recent thing I've seen coming out of this testimony from a guy called Eric Lehman, who I don't know personally, but who gave testimony at the trial, saying that actually he thinks this is going to, or maybe already even is, reducing in importance, and that the machine learning models are now getting so good that potentially this kind of thing becomes untrue, and that actually they can understand documents directly without reference to the user interactions with those documents, which is kind of fascinating. So bringing all of this together, coming at it from my perspective, so many of you, I guess, might know me. I don't know how you just showed up here otherwise. So if you don't, my name is Will Critchlow. I'm founder and CEO at SearchPilot. And what we do at SearchPilot is we help very large websites test what works in SEO. And we do that by helping enterprise sites run SEO A/B experiments. And because we get to work with a huge range of massive sites, everything from e-commerce, travel, jobs, real estate, media, we see a lot of these different verticals. And so I pay a lot of attention to the future direction of this stuff, because our customers are going to need to understand it. And I need to understand from a SearchPilot perspective how it all works now and how it's likely to work in the future. And how I'm kind of feeling about this is this feels very closely aligned with a couple of things that we think about. The first is this concept of ranking factors and Google algorithm in general as a black box. So not as a list of ranking factors and a checklist and a set of things that you can do in isolation, but a more holistic thing, a little bit more like how humans actually evaluate websites, which is of course Google's like stated direction of travel, path to how they want things to operate. And the question is how close are they, and how close can they get, how long will it take? But I see this as part of that kind of trend of everything from the addition of machine learning stuff. So right back in the kind of Panda, Penguin days, the more machine learning there is, the more it's a black box, the more human interaction you feed in, the more it's a black box. And I think that validates what we're trying to do, where we're saying we actually need to test against these things in the real world and actually see how our hypotheses stack up and how our experiments perform, because it's actually much more like user experience testing or conversion rate optimization, where humans are unpredictable and the algorithm is increasingly unpredictable, in that we have to try out our things, try out the things that we want to do, run those experiments, see how they hang together. So that's aligned. The other big thing that we focus on quite a lot is it matters what users do when they reach your site, not just as a ranking factor, maybe not even mainly as a ranking factor, but mainly because there's something you're hoping they're going to do, right? This is SEO as marketing, not pure technology discipline, I suppose. And if you're an e-commerce site, you're hoping folks are going to buy from you. If you're a lead gen site, you're hoping that they're going to submit the form. If you're a media site, you're hoping they're going to be a loyal visitor. They're going to come back. They're going to read a lot of your content. They're going to recommend it to other people. Whatever those actions are, there are things you want. You hope folks are going to do. You want them to do. And so, one of the things that, again, it's very aligned here. We talk a lot about the concept of full funnel testing, which is running essentially a CRO test and an SEO test on the same hypothesis, or the same change, rather. Like the hypothesis may differ, but the same physical change to the website. And what that does is that you can then map out, was this change good for both? Good for one, but not the other? Or worst case, I mean, obviously bad for both is I guess, the worst case, but conflicted, good for one, bad for the other. What can you learn from that? How can you iterate? How can you improve to get the benefits in one channel without the downsides in the other, for example? And I think this is super aligned, because the more that we see our SEO work as being aligned with user experience work, the more we're aligned with the long run objective of where Google is trying to take these algorithms. And whether they actually end up achieving that through direct measurement of user data, a feedback loop that feeds user data into the algorithm itself, or this advanced feature of BERT and MARM and other large language model type analysis, where they can understand the meaning of the documents and the web directly, kind of doesn't matter. We're optimizing for the same thing, which is ultimately that user. So that's where we're coming from. I hope this little jaunt into user experience as ranking factor has been interesting to some of you. As I said, this is the first time I'm trying out one of these live streams. I'm hoping to do them regularly. And so I'd love your feedback. Hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Will Critchlow, or you can email me, firstname.lastname at searchpilot.com. And yeah, let me know what you think. What do you want to hear more of? Send me some questions. Always up for discussing all kinds of different things. And if you're interested in SEO testing, always want to chat. And especially if you are in-house at a large website, those verticals that we commonly work in, e-commerce, jobs, travel, real estate, media, probably forgetting some listings, then I would especially love to chat to you. And I'd love to hear what you're up to in the testing world. And I think we've got some ways that we can make your testing faster, more powerful, more effective, and bring more business benefits to your organization. So definitely let me know if any of that's of interest. Head on over to searchpilot.com to get on our email list. And it's the end of this experiment for today. Thank you for coming along for the journey. I expect we'll put this out as a non-live thing as well, but it's going to show up in all kinds of places. Content, isn't it? Right. Good stuff. Thank you, everyone. Take care.